The 2025-26 New Jersey Devils season is officially here. What is going on, Devils fans? As always, it is your host, your best friend, your confidant, your number one source, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to a season preview slash prediction episode of the Devil's State of Mind podcast right here on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as SportsWire Radio, the best place to get everything you need to know about your 2025-26 New Jersey Devils. And as always, Devils fans, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you're checking out this episode. As always, just so you know, I greatly appreciate all of it here, guys, and I'm so excited to get this season underway. Shout out really quickly to our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, and right now, with so many awesome sporting events going on, including the start of the NHL season, which started last night, DraftKings is your number one place to get in on all the huge cash prizes. All you got to do is sign up using our promo code THPN. Again, promo code THPN. You get $5. You bet $5, you get $200 instantly in risk-free bets. Guys, it is that simple, and it is a awesome way to get in on all the huge cash prizes that DraftKings has to offer. So again, sign up with DraftKings Sportsbook using our promo code THPN. And as always, Devils fans, make sure to bet responsibly. Now, before I get into the episode and kind of our breakdown of what we're going to be talking about today, I did want to make a really quick, awesome announcement that I made last week on my social media. It's Devil's State of Mind on both Facebook and Instagram, and Devil's State over on Twitter. I have partnered with Fanatics, and I actually have my own little online store where I can show you guys the best Devils gear out there that Fanatics has to offer, the official retail partner of the National Hockey League and the New Jersey Devils. And as you can see here on my page, Devil's State of Mind, you just got to look it up. It's also in the link in my bio, and also it's going to be here on YouTube and all over my social media as well. But as you can see, I've already created a couple of really cool collections with some of the latest Devils jerseys, hats, hoodies. I'm going to continue to add more and more as we go along here, but I did want to shout out my friends over at Fanatics, as well as I've started to team up with them to get you guys the best Devils gear out there, courtesy of Fanatics. So make sure you go to my store and you go through them to get that gear. Helps out the podcast, helps me out personally, and helps out you as well, Devils fans, finding the best gift for yourself and the Devils fans in your life. So I just wanted to quickly bring that up and shout out Fanatics on that one, because really excited to be working with them moving forward. All right. I'm not even going to give you guys a quick preview of what's coming. I'm just going to get right into this episode. As always, Devils fans, we have a bunch to get to on the Devil's State of Mind podcast. So let's not waste any more time and get rolling. And we will get rolling and drop the puck with talking right away about the Devils 2025-26 roster. Now, couple things that I want to talk about really quickly with this. First and foremost, Luke Glendening is not on this original roster. This was from a couple of days ago, and that was because he had yet to sign a new contract with the team, but he did sign a contract yesterday, a one-year deal at league minimum. He's going to be the team's fourth line center. He signed a professional tryout contract with the Devils prior to training camp and the preseason starting, and he was very solid in the numerous games that he played during the preseason. Really effective on faceoffs, solid on the penalty kill. I think overall developed some good chemistry with the guys in the bottom six, and is a guy that he got the opportunity and made the most of it and has earned a roster spot on this team. Also, another name that's not on there, but is now on there at the time of this recording, is Zach McEwen. Zach McEwen was traded to the New Jersey Devils from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Curtis McDermott. That was kind of a move one of the first moves that Tom Fitzgerald had made to obviously open up some cap space to eventually have enough to put on Luke Hughes' new $9 million per year contract that he signed last week, which we talked about in a breaking news episode. But Zach McEwen did practice with the Devils today. He's on the roster. He is going to be rocking number 15. Also, Shane Lachance and Lenny Haminejo are both now down with the Utica Comets. From what I saw at their practice today, it looks like they're going to be starting on that second line with Ryan Perront's um, team down in Utica. So, even though they made the roster originally, this happens all the time where somebody makes the roster and then gets immediately sent down for just kind of cap reasons and all that. So, those two are going to be starting the year down in Utica. But nonetheless, Luke Glendening and Zach McEwen will both be on this team to start the year. McEwen looks like he'll be more of kind of an extra guy that maybe comes in every now and then. We shall see. It's unlikely he'll play in that first game against Carolina tomorrow night. But Luke Glendening will definitely play. And so will Brett Pesce, who had been kind of in and out of practice the last couple days after leaving the game early in the second to last preseason game last week against the Rangers. But he said to the media, and we saw it in practice today, that he is raring and ready to go. Also, that first game tomorrow night will be his 700th career game in the National Hockey League. So congratulations to Brett Pesce. And what a way to celebrate it by playing against, again, your former team in the Carolina Hurricanes and the team that knocked you out of the playoffs just last year. Also, it doesn't really show it here on, but I will bring it up. Stefan Nason and John Kovacevic, unsurprisingly, are going to start the season on injured, non-roster, while Seamus Casey and Mark McLaughlin will start on IR. As far as Seamus Casey is concerned, there is no timeline for when he will be back. He's dealing with an injury that he had been dealing with even when he was playing the Prospects Challenge. So it's unfortunate that we're not going to see Casey playing anytime soon. With Stefan Nason, he was dealing with something that he injured and was struggling with during the offseason, but he has been practicing the last couple of days, which is good. But Sheldon Keefe did say that there is no timeline for when he's going to come back. Jonathan Kovacevic, we already know, is going to be out until at least January, so we're not going to see him anytime soon. Mark McLaughlin, not really sure exactly what he's dealing with, but he will also be on IR as well. So the Devils already dealing with some injuries, but again, this is nothing new. If you're a Devils fan and you've been experiencing this along with us, it's been certainly quite the frustrating thing. But overall, that is the roster for the Devils going in to the 2025-26 season, starting tomorrow night in Carolina, where the Devils season ended last year against the Carolina Hurricanes. I am really excited. I'm always excited when a new season is around the corner. We already had a couple of games in the regular season kickoff last night, and we are going to certainly get more, not only tonight, but moving forward, especially with the Devils season getting underway. Very, very excited. Now, let's shift over to some storylines that I want to share with you guys here and some of the things that I'm going to be keeping my eye on throughout this entire season, and certainly and hopefully very far down the road, very, very far, hopefully into even late June if the Devils are lucky. So the first storyline that I'm going to talk about really quickly is going to be about health. Can this Devils team stay relatively healthy? I mean, that's going to always be the big question mark with this Devils team, regardless of where they are in the standings, regardless of anything else. It's going to be about, can this team find a way to stay healthy? As we've seen in years past, when this team deals with injuries, it becomes quite the challenge. And we see here with this image, this is when Jack Hughes injured his shoulder against the Vegas Golden Knights and was deemed out for the rest of the year. The Devils struggled. The Devils essentially limped into the playoffs, or kind of almost backed their way into the playoffs, and were able to at least get some experience in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But ultimately, we knew that they weren't going to be in it for very long. And we all know what this Devils team is capable of doing when they are fully healthy. You don't have to go that far back. Go back to the 2022-23 season, right? that team pretty much for the majority of the year was fully healthy. The biggest injury that the Devils dealt with was when Andre Palat was out for about 2 months with an injury. But other than that, the main guys on this team stayed healthy, missing only maybe 2 or 3 games throughout the year. And they were able to consistently have chemistry, develop that success, and have a franchise, you know, altering year for them. And that's what a lot of us want to see moving forward from this team because we know from years past what they are capable of doing. So that's going to be the first storyline to kind of keep your eye on here is if this team can actually stay healthy because if not, as we've seen in years past, it's going to be a rough time for this Devils team. The next storyline that I'm going to keep my eye on, and we already saw a little bit of it today in practice, is the recently paid Luke Hughes. And when, not if, but when will he start getting power play one time? Now, in practice today, he did play on that first power play unit. That's something that we're certainly going to keep our eye on going into not only the first game of the year, but moving forward. And you look at it now with Luke Hughes being the highest paid player alongside Dougie Hamilton. You start to wonder where Dougie Hamilton's overall situation is at this point. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if Dougie Hamilton is our power play quarterback on the second unit. I think that just makes the second unit stronger. And then you have Luke Hughes in that top one. I think you create very difficult matchups for penalty killers going up against either power play unit. But this is something I'm going to keep my eye on because a lot of people have been wanting to see it. And now Luke Hughes, with his new contract and getting paid $9 million plus per year, can he live up to that hype, right? Can he live up to this contract? And one of the ways that he's going to have a chance to do it is what he can do on the power play. And that's something that we're going to keep our eye on. He took a big step on the power play when Dougie Hamilton was out and Luke was playing on that top pairing, and we saw the capabilities that he can. If he's going to get it more consistently this year, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes another major step forward. So that's the next storyline that I'm going to keep my eye on here as we go along into this season. The next one involves the goaltending, and more specifically, it's talking about Jacob Markstrom. And really, the storyline that I'm focusing on is what kind of year two are we going to get from Markstrom? So we saw last year, especially prior to him getting hurt, he was playing at that elite level that we expected him to play at when the Devils acquired him the summer before. Now, he comes into a contract here. There's already been talks about the Devils are looking to try to extend him. He's looking for maybe over $5 million per year on a new deal. I think it's only a matter of time before the Devils and Markstrom come to some sort of an agreement because I believe that the Devils firmly look at Markstrom as the guy that's going to help this Devils team make it to what they all want to achieve, and that is winning a Stanley Cup. And, you want to see what kind of workload he's going to get because we know the capabilities that Jake Allen brings as a very solid backup goaltender. So we know that Jacob Markstrom could probably get a couple of games more where he's off, where he's not playing, he's getting rest, and you can put Jake Allen in there and still have that confidence. The other thing, and this affects basically anybody that's going to be playing in it, is that it's very likely that Jacob Markstrom is going to play, if not be the main starter for Sweden in the Olympics as well. So that means he's going to have even more workload than maybe he had last year. And then you add on to that, getting into the playoffs and trying to make a deep run into the playoffs, it's a lot. So it's something that I certainly want to see. Can Jacob Markstrom take his game to another level and kind of turn back the clock a little bit and be, as he was last year for the most part, that true number one goaltender for this Devils team? That's going to be a big thing to keep my eye on here for this season because goaltending is so very important for this team as we've seen before. Now, the next thing that I want to kind of talk about is involving the coaching staff. And more specifically, I want to talk a little bit more about Brad Shaw, the new Devils defensive assistant. Now, there's been a lot of positive talk around Devils camp about what Brad Shaw is already bringing to this Devils team. I wrote an article a couple months back talking about why I felt that Brad Shaw was a home run hire. Again, that's over on Pucks and Pitchforks. Make sure to go check that out if you have not already. And we've seen what Bradshaw can do with some very talented young defensemen. A lot of people give credit to Bradshaw for the development of Zach Werenski. You saw what Jamie Drysdale was able to do last year when he was coaching in Philadelphia. And now he comes over to New Jersey, and he comes to a Devils team that last year was top 5 in the penalty kill and one of the better defensive teams overall. Now, are the Devils a tiny bit banged up on the back end? A little bit, but nonetheless, this is still one of the stronger defensive units in the league and something that's going to be a main focal point for this Devils team throughout the year. And it's going to be really fascinating to see what kind of system and kind of play that Bradshaw is going to want to implement with this team. It's going to be something to really focus on here if the Devils are going to have success, because they certainly decided to make the change to bring in, a couple of new assistant coaches, including Bradshaw, after the team had such success. But that was in the regular season, right? And yes, we want to see them have that same success in the regular season. But can Bradshaw and some of the other new assistant coaches, can they come in and help this Devils team make that next jump and be that much more effective, if not the same, basically, that they could be in the regular season once they get into the playoffs, if that makes sense. So really curious to see what kind of developments this defensive core can get out of being coached now by new assistant coach Brad Shaw. And last but certainly not least, and I think that without question here, this is probably the most important one, because it's kind of the focus that everybody's going to be looking at, right? It's going to be like, well, the regular season is obviously important, but what's going to happen if and when the Devils make it back to the Stanley Cup playoffs? I recognize this logo is from last year. Nonetheless, the question that really is going to be on a lot of Devils fans' minds, and also on the minds of a lot of people throughout the league, is, can this team go deeper into the postseason? Now, if you look at the, 2 of the last 3 seasons that the Devils have made the playoffs, you go back to 22-23, they got to the second round of the playoffs before getting knocked out by Carolina in 5 games. The next year, they didn't even make the playoffs. And this year, they kind of, again, like I said, they backed into the playoffs after dealing with injuries, were able to at least not get swept, but ultimately got beat by a better Carolina Hurricanes team in the first round. So a lot of people are looking at the Devils and saying they have all this talent, they have this ability. Can they all put it together? And how far can they get into the playoffs? And you look at some of the other talent that comes through the Eastern Conference, including in their own division, it's going to be a challenge. Just like it's been the last couple of years, it's going to be a challenge, and the Devils are going to have targets on their back. Whether people realize it or not, there is going to be a level of wanting for other teams to slow this Devils team down. In some ways that they'll look at it to try to injure their players, not necessarily directly, but certainly to try to slow them down. And the Devils have to understand that that's kind of the target that they have. And they have to be ready for every single challenge every single night. Can't let up, have to continue to develop themselves, build that chemistry, and ultimately get themselves into a groove so that when they get to the playoffs, they're raring and ready to go. And again, that goes back to things like health and other factors as well. But again, if and when the Devils get into the playoffs, the question is going to be, where is the team going to be at that point? Who are they going to play in the first round? And looking at the potential path that they have, can they go deep? And when I mean deep, I mean you got to get beyond the second round. You got to make that push to getting into the Eastern Conference Finals. You have to show yourselves, as well as the rest of the league, that this Devils team is truly ready to contend, not just in the Eastern Conference, but certainly for a Stanley Cup. And that's going to be, again, a big thing that we're going to be looking at, not just when they get to the playoffs, but as we go along here, and how this team can develop. How can this team prove to us as fans, as well as other people throughout the league, that this Devils team is not only different, it is that super talented and difficult to play against on a night-to-night basis. And that is going to be a collective thing here moving forward for this team. So overall, those are the storylines that I'm going to be keeping my eye on throughout the year with this Devils team and what I want to see from them moving forward. So let me know what you guys think of those storylines. If there's any others that I missed that are maybe more on your mind. Let me know in the comment section here on YouTube. And also just let me know over on social media as well. Again, in the top right corner, Devil State of Mind on both Instagram and Facebook, and Devil State over on Twitter. Now, before we get into my predictions, hot takes, whatever you want to say, I want to give another special shout out to my friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. So here we go. NFL fans, what's your favorite touchdown? For me, it's the next one. Because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. Here's the best part. You bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly, as I mentioned before. Again, it's that simple. You could bet on something as simple as, the New York Giants are playing the Philadelphia Eagles tomorrow. You could bet that the Eagles are just going to beat the New York Giants. You could do it as simple as that, and you could get this $200 in bonus bets. It's honestly just that simple and awesome. And your team is hitting pay dirt, pays out to you. All you got to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boo Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see DraftKings.com/audio. All right. Now let's shift over to my favorite part of this episode, and that is talking about the Devils' predictions that I have come up with this year. Now, going to be blunt with you right away that I was struggling to kind of figure out how I was going to show you guys my graphics that I made. So you're going to see the Canva logo in the background, but nonetheless, did come up with this yesterday. And here are going to be my predictions for the Devils this year. I hope you guys like this graphic because I worked quite hard on it. All right. So that's what these are going to be my predictions for the year. I have several of them. And the first one that I have is the Devils finished second in the Metropolitan Division with 96 points. I think, honestly, that is a fairly reasonable prediction because you look at the Carolina Hurricanes, and we know that that is the cream of the crop in the Metro Division, and that's going to be a battle with them throughout. And even though I think the Devils have the ability and the talent to be better than Carolina and get beyond them and finish first in the division, I think ultimately at the end, the Devils are going to go through a little bit of bumps and bruises throughout the year. It's just something that we've come to expect. But nonetheless, I still expect the Devils to have a strong year, and they're going to finish in the top 3 in the Metro and make the playoffs as my microphone loses thing. Now we're good again. But again, I think that the Devils are going to absolutely, have themselves a really successful year. I think 96 points is very, very good. And I definitely think it will get them to second place in the Metropolitan Division. Now, the next prediction that I have is the Devils get to at least the second round. Now, does that go a little bit against what I was saying before about what my expectations were or what I'm looking for in storylines? Sure. But I do believe that the Devils are going to find a way to take that next step, get further into the playoffs. That's why I said at least the second round. I still believe this team is capable of going deep into the playoffs. But again, with things like health and consistency, especially with depth scoring, those are going to be factors that we're going to keep our eye on. But I definitely can see this team getting to at least the second round and getting fairly deep in the Stanley Cup playoffs if everything goes according to plan. The next one that I have is the Devils are going to finish with a top 5 power play and at least the top 5 penalty kill. Now, this shouldn't come as much of a surprise because of the fact of what we've seen this Devils team do. Look at just last year finishing with a top 5 power play and a top 5 penalty kill. One of the only teams, if not the only team in the NHL to have a top 5 in both of those special teams categories. The only reason why I think that the Devils may not have as successful of a penalty kill as last year is probably in the early going with, again, you have a new assistant coach in Brad Shaw. It might take a little bit more time to get things, acclimated, especially on the penalty kill. And again, without Jonathan Kovacevic back there, I think it is still very much a big factor. So I think maybe early on in the year, the Devils are not going to have as much success. But I think moving forward throughout the majority of the year, I think they're going to be a strong penalty kill. And again, with the power play, based on everything, again, with health and this, that, and the other thing, if they're all clicking like we expect them to be, there's no reason that this Devils team can't have an electric power play like they've had in years past. Now, let's shift over to some individual awards. For team MVP, not really a surprise, I think, for many. I'm going to go with Jack Hughes in this one. 45 goals, 95 points is my prediction. I made a post about this last month about my predictions for different players and what I expect to see. I just think that Jack Hughes is going to be more determined than ever to not only stay on the ice, but be that superstar player that we know he's capable of being. And I think he's in for a big, big year moving forward. Now, for rookie of the year, shouldn't come as a surprise because the Devils don't have that many rookies going into the season to start. I'm going to go with Arseny Grutsyuk, 25 goals, 50 points. I think that really, I've said this before, that he reminds me a lot more of a Kirill Marchenko from the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think is a guy that maybe is not at the superstar level, but certainly very much a very solid and productive player. We saw the success he had in the preseason, and I think he's going to be able to translate that. Might take him a little bit to get going, but once he gets into that flow, I think he's going to find a way to find the back of the net a bunch of times. And I think, honestly, if he's finishing with 25 goals and 50 points in his first year playing in North America, I think that's pretty successful overall. And that's certainly going to give the Devils more of that consistent scoring that we've talked about in the past. So that's really what I want to see in terms of that. Now, let's shift over to the next one that I have here, and that is biggest surprise. And what I mean by biggest surprise is essentially, who do I think is going to pleasantly surprise fans and maybe do more than is expected of him? And that's going to be Dawson Mercer. Now, some people might say, well, Neil, this is something that we should be expecting from Mercer. We saw what he was able to do a couple of years ago, and he's really been struggling to get back to that point. Why would he be a surprise? Well, for that exact reason, because I think that for a lot of people, the expectation is not the same as it was before with Dawson Mercer. There are people that want to see Dawson Mercer playing on that third line as opposed to playing in the top six, especially in that second line with Nico Hischier and Timo Meier. But I think, honestly, especially with Mercer playing on that wing, I think he's going to end up being very successful. I think he's very determined, as any player would be. But I think that he's going to find some more luck. I think there were times last year, similar to Timo Meier in a way, where even though he was being able to create a lot of chances, he was just having a lot of bad luck. And I think that that was kind of the thing that was really snake biting him. And I think that now he was able to have a full training camp, not like last year. He's had a year now to play under Sheldon Keefe. I think he's going to be a lot more comfortable moving forward, and I expect him to certainly step up his game. 24 goals, 50 points, I think is going to be the number for Mercer, and I think that that's going to be very productive for a guy that I expect has the ability to get to that 30 goals. Maybe it doesn't happen this year, but I think he gets pretty close overall, especially playing on that second top six line. Last but certainly not least, my hot take for the year, and that is that Jacob Markstrom will make a run for the Vezina Trophy. Again, this goes back to what I was saying before about how this is a contract year for Jacob Markstrom. He's not only trying to prove to the Devils, but he's trying to prove to the entire league that even at his age, in his mid-30s, he can still be one of the elite netminders in the league. There were many times last year where he made some saves that only a handful of goaltenders in this league can certainly make. And that, to me, I think is all the motivation that he needs to give himself the chance to really play well. And he's going to be that main backstop for this team. And I expect him to come out and be super motivated and to play well and to play strong and really help this Devils team take that next step that we want to see from them. And I think overall, that's going to give him a chance to be considered one of the better goaltenders in the league and maybe even make a run at a Vezina Trophy, something the Devils fans have not seen from their netminder in many, many years since the great Martin Brodeur. And that is really what I expect. That's what I want to see. And that's what I really feel. I feel that Markstrom is ready to take his game to another level, even at his age, and really help this team be that much more dominant, especially between the pipes, which is becoming much more of a strong suit for this Devils team. So those are my predictions for this Devils team this year. Let me know what you guys think, again, in the comment section here on YouTube, but also over on social media as well. And on that note, Devils fans, that's going to wrap it up for this 25-26 season preview / prediction episode of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. As always, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. Really do appreciate it. If you like what you see here on YouTube, make sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Tell all of your friends to do the same, and also hit that notification bell so you get notified every time a new episode comes out here of the podcast. And again, make sure to follow us on our social medias, Devil's State of Mind on Facebook and Instagram, Devil State over on Twitter. And also you can follow me on TikTok at Neil.Villapiana. You can see clips from the podcast over there and much more Devils content. And also follow me over on my BlueSky as well, where I'll give you guys updates on the Devils and also on the podcast and so much more. So make sure you guys follow over there. And last but certainly not least, if you're listening to the podcast episode on the audio platforms, if you're on Apple or Spotify, make sure to do me a favor and leave a 5-star rating on either one. Helps the podcast out tremendously, helps continue to grow the podcast and get it out to that many more Devils fans all over the world. But again, thank you guys so very much for checking out this season preview of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. And we will see you in the next episode when we have some games to talk about. Everyone continue to be the awesome people that you are. And as I always say at the end of every episode, put those horns up, baby, and let's go, Devils.